Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes all that information out there, the articles, the sources, the studies, and boils it down, trying to give you the clear insights you need.
Basically, we do the digging so you don't have to.
Exactly. And today, we're really excited because we're launching something new, a special series we're calling Forgotten Crime Files.
Yeah, this is something we've wanted to do for a while. We'll be looking into true crime cases that maybe aren't, constantly in the headlines anymore, but they still tell us so much.
Right, about justice, about people, about how the legal system actually works, or sometimes struggles.
And for our first forgotten crime file, we're tackling a really heavy one. It involves the former MMA fighter Jonathan Paul Koppenhaver, probably better known as War Machine.
Ah, yes, War Machine.
Yeah.
And the case involves his incredibly brutal assault on his ex-girlfriend, Christy Mack, who was an adult film actress and also her boyfriend at the time.
It was huge news back then. I mean, the graphic details, Koppenhaver's public profile, it really put a massive strain on the justice system. It's a powerful example of that.
It really is. It wasn't just the crime itself, horrific as it was, but how everything around it, the media frenzy, the victim speaking out, tested the courts.
Definitely. From the moment it happened right through the trial and sentencing.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Who are the main people involved here? First, Jonathan Paul Koppenhaver. He legally changed his name to War Machine back in 2008.
Which says something in itself, maybe. He was a professional MMA fighter, UFC, Bellator MMA, had a record of 14 wins, 5 losses.
And outside of fighting, he was also involved in the adult film industry. He actually did a spread for Hustler magazine with Christy Mack.
Which brings us to her. Christine McKinde, known professionally as Christy Mack, an adult film actress and Koppenhaver's ex-girlfriend at the time this all went down.
And the third key person is Corey Thomas. He was Mack's boyfriend then, and he was also attacked, a direct victim in this whole horrible event.
Yeah, understanding their relationships is pretty crucial to grasping what happened.
So the incident itself, it kicks off early morning, August 8th, 2014. War Machine just shows up at Christy Mack's house in Las Vegas.
Right, around 2 a.m., totally unannounced. And this was months after they'd split up back in May. He'd even moved away, back to San Diego.
According to Mack's later statement, he finds her and Corey Thomas inside. And importantly, she said they were fully clothed and unarmed.
Just there, in the house. You can only imagine that moment.
And what happens next is just immediate, brutal violence.
Yeah.
War Machine apparently didn't say a word. He just started beating Corey Thomas.
Viciously. Thomas testified later about the injuries, a broken nose, dislocated shoulder, scrapes, bruises, even bite marks, all over his body. The suddenness is terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. And Thomas apparently asked him, are you going to kill me? Or are you going to let me go?
Imagine having to ask that. After about 10 minutes of this beating, War Machine tells him to leave, but warns him, don't talk to the police.
Which raises that question, why didn't Thomas immediately call 911? But the sources suggest he was just in profound shock. And terrified of this guy, a trained fighter.
Understandably. The fear of retaliation, the shock, it can paralyze you.
So Thomas leaves, under threat. And then, War Machine turns his full attention, his full rage, onto Christy Mack.
And this is where it becomes a prolonged 2-hour nightmare for her. Her statement, her court testimony, it's incredibly difficult to read, frankly.
Yeah. He forced her to get undressed, shower in front of him, then dragged her out, start beating her in the face. Over and over, she said she lost consciousness at least once.
The injuries she sustained were just staggering, medically documented. 18 broken bones around her eye socket.
18.
It's
just around the eye.
Her nose broken in 2 places. Missing teeth, others broken. She couldn't chew properly, couldn't see out of her left eye. Her speech was slurred because of the swelling, the missing teeth.
And it wasn't just her face. A fractured rib. And a severely ruptured liver from being kicked in the side. Commentators pointed out how potentially fatal that specific injury is.
Absolutely. Plus her leg was so badly injured she couldn't walk. It's just head-to-toe devastation.
And then he grabbed a knife in the kitchen.
Yeah, escalating the terror. He started using it on her, pushed it into her hand, her ear, her head. And then this detail is just so cruel. He used the dull blade to saw off a lot of her hair.
The knife actually broke at some point, but he kept threatening her with the broken blade.
Max said she honestly believed he was going to kill her that night. She mentioned he'd beaten her before, many times in fact.
Which is a horrifying baseline.
Right. But she specifically said, never this badly. This was a terrifying escalation.
And his actions during the assault show such control. He took her phone right away, then spent time canceling all her plans for the next week.
Calculated, making sure no one would notice she was missing, no one would worry or come looking for her. Chillingly deliberate.
And there was also, he apparently told her he was going to rape her, but then, according to her statement, he was disappointed in himself when he could not get hard. It's just profoundly disturbing.
The things he said to her during the attack, they really reveal his mindset. Things like, "Now I have to kill you. I've gone too far. You can't be seen like this. Everyone's going to know."
Implying it was about protecting himself, his image, even then.
Exactly. And also, "That is my pussy, and I'm going to take it back now." Just this raw, possessive, violent rage. It's horrifying.
But then, in the middle of all this horror, there's this moment of incredible courage from Mac. He leaves the room briefly, goes to the kitchen.
And she truly believed, he was going to get a sharper knife to finish the job.
So she saw her chance. She ran. Naked, injured, terrified, out the back door, over a fence, onto a golf course, then through the neighborhood, banging on doors.
Just desperately seeking help, until finally someone answered. They got her to the hospital, her will to survive. It's just incredible.
It really is. And when Christy Mack decided to share her story, including those graphic photos of her injuries, the public reaction was immediate.
Oh, huge, massive shock, outrage. It spread like wildfire online. That visual evidence, her statement, it galvanized public opinion and put immense pressure on the authorities.
A really powerful example of a victim taking control of the narrative, in a way.
Definitely. Meanwhile, War Machine had fled. He was on the run.
But kind of ironically, he helped lead police right to him. He started posting these self-pitying tweets.
Yeah, and authorities were able to use the IP address from his phone on those tweets to track him down. His own social media use led to his capture.
So just a week later, August 15th, 2014, U.S. Marshals and police found him in Simi Valley, California. He resisted arrest, apparently.
There was already a $10,000 reward out for him. They extradited him back to Nevada to face a mountain of charges.
And then, while in jail awaiting trial, another dark turn. October 2014, he attempted suicide.
Yeah, found unresponsive in his cell. Tried to hang himself. He left a note quoting Nietzsche. It just adds another layer to his state of mind, this internal chaos alongside the external violence.
Now, bringing a case like this to trial, it's a huge challenge for the courts. We looked at some insights in the National Center for State Courts about high-profile cases.
Right. The sheer volume of public and media attention puts enormous pressure on everyone involved. Court staff, resources, even maintaining judicial impartiality.
Finding an impartial jury, for example. How do you find people who haven't already formed an opinion when it's been all over the news?
Exactly. And the pressure on witnesses, especially the victim, testifying under that kind of scrutiny. The trial itself got delayed multiple times. Finally started in February 2017.
His defense team tried a few angles. They argued he was like a raging bull, maybe had brain injuries from fighting.
They brought up steroids, other drugs, suggesting it was roid rage, that he was in some kind of blind rage amounting to unconsciousness.
But the judge didn't accept that as a legal defense. It was rejected.
Yeah, no legal basis for it in this context. So the verdict came on March 20, 2017.
And he was convicted on most counts, 29 out of 34 felonies, including really serious ones: kidnapping with a deadly weapon, sexual assault, coercing witnesses.
The jury couldn't agree on 2 attempted murder charges. They deadlocked on those. And he was acquitted on 3 lesser counts. But still, 29 felony convictions, it's substantial.
Then came sentencing, June 5th, 2017. He got 36 years to life.
Meaning he won't even be eligible for parole until 2053. He'll be 71 years old.
At the sentencing, Christy Mack gave a victim impact statement. Incredibly powerful. She was tearful, understandably, and said she still feared for her life.
Yeah, she said, "I do know when he gets out, he will kill me." Just shows the lasting terror victims live with, even after conviction.
War Machine also spoke at sentencing, offered an apology, described it as being full of self-loathing, called himself lost, empty, said he hated his impulses.
He even said, "I should have killed myself by now, and sometimes I didn't realize what I did until I'd already done it. I hate that this happened."
It's a strange mix. Then later, he posted a long apology online and actually invited Mac to visit him in prison, which seems just incredibly tone-deaf and inappropriate.
Yeah, suggests a continued lack of understanding of the impact, or maybe just warped boundaries. It's bizarre.
To really get the full picture, though, you have to look at his background a bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. Reports mention his mother had drug addiction issues. His father died when he was just 13.
Difficult start for sure. And later, issues with behavior. He got expelled from the Citadel, the military college. That points to ongoing problems with authority, conduct.
And crucially, this violence wasn't out of the blue legally either. He had prior arrests, prior convictions for assault. He'd served a year in jail back in 2010 for felony assault.
Which makes Christy Mack's statement that he'd beaten her many times before even more chilling. This attack was an escalation, maybe the culmination, of a long pattern of
Yeah, a
violence.
pattern the system hadn't managed to stop.
And this case inevitably brought up uncomfortable questions about domestic violence in the MMA world.
Right. While guys like War Machine are outliers, not representative of all fighters, these high-profile incidents do cast a shadow on the sport.
It forces a conversation, or it should, about accountability outside the ring. Domestic violence is a societal issue. It crosses all professions, but the visibility here makes it particularly stark.
So, wrapping this up,
Mm.
our first forgotten crime file, the War Machine and Christy Mack case. It's a grim reminder of extreme violence, but also the long road to justice.
And you really have to acknowledge Christy Mack's courage, both in surviving the attack itself, escaping, and then speaking out so publicly. That took incredible strength.
Absolutely. Her voice was crucial.
So for you listening, maybe take a moment to think about the long shadow violence like this casts on victims' lives, and also the sheer complexity of navigating the justice system, especially under such intense public scrutiny.
Yeah, this case really pushed all those buttons.
We really hope you found this deep dive valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the deep dive. That way you won't miss our future Forgotten Crime Files episodes or any of our other analyses.
And hey, give us a thumbs up if you found this insightful. It really helps other people find the show. Thanks for tuning in.
And maybe one final thought to leave you with. When you have a case like this, with a history of violence, a public figure, and the legal system all colliding, how do we, as a society, balance that need for justice with ensuring due process? And what role do platforms, like social media in this case, play when they become part of the story, even inadvertently helping catch the perpetrator? Something to think about.